Right now, the Saints are your favorite. You can find anywhere from plus 120 to plus 130 on them to win the division. Falcons, anywhere from 2-1 to plus 240. The Panthers, you can find anywhere from as low as plus 340 to as high as 4-1. And then the Bucs bringing up the rear, pretty much 8-1 across the board for all of them. So start here with the Saints, with a team that is your favorite to win the division. 7-10 last year. They won 3 of their last 4 games, Mike, but like 3 of those last 4 games, it was Desmond Ritter's first start. It was that Browns game whenever it was like a negative bajillion degrees and the wind was like tornado factor and all that. So, I mean, like that, the range of outcomes for that game was infinite. And then they got the Eagles with Gardner Minshew and no Lane Johnson out there. So I'm not discrediting the team overall, but just saying some of those wins might not have been all that great. Of course, they bring in Derek Carr, Foster Moreau. They drafted Brian Bresee out of Clemson, who's going to be on that defensive line. Also, Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame, going to be on that defensive line as well. Marcus Davenport's out of town. Of course, Andy Dalton, starting quarterback last year, also out of town for them. So I look at this Saints team, and I guess will be the question for every one of these teams that we talk about, Mike, is, what is the quarterback going to look like? Is Derek Carr any good, right? I mean, like we saw pretty much a slightly above league average quarterback for the last few years. And is this change of scenery really going to be something that reignites, the potential maybe that we saw in Carr, or is that actually going to be a downgrade for him when it all is said and done? So I think there really is a really, really big question around, are we actually looking at the best quarterback in this division, or are we just looking at a guy that might actually get surpassed by one of these other guys?
Yeah, the quarterback position is a key for this division. And with the Saints, you got to look at that offensive line and the quarterback, right? Offensive line ranked in the 20th in most of the preseason rankings here. So not a great offensive line for Derek Carr in front of him. He does have some good weapons. He's got Olave, Michael Thomas trying to work his way back. Kamara suspended for the first 3 games, but he'll be back on the team after that. So the offensive side of the ball, there are definitely some question marks here. For me, the key to the Saints is this defense. They were ranked 7th in yards allowed last year in the NFL. I think they actually will improve a little bit off of that. And they clearly have, in my mind, the best defense inside of this division. So it's how far can this Saints defense take them, and how much can they take advantage of this early schedule as well? They should be able to get off to a pretty good start, and that's going to be a big key here for the Saints team. I think that Derek Carr has a fairly good season. Alvin Kamara is the best running back that he has ever played with. You've got 2 weapons on the outside, like I mentioned, in both Olave and Michael Thomas. We'll see if Michael Thomas can finally be healthy again. That's going to be a big question mark for him. But it's really all about the offensive line on the offensive side of the ball. If they're able to protect Derek Carr, plus 120 is going to look like a gift inside this division. If they're not able to protect Derek Carr, this could be a dogfight to the end.
Pro Football Focus has him at 24th on those offensive line ratings heading into the season. Starting second year, Trevor Penning at left tackle. So you got a second year guy going to be protecting the blind side there for Carr. He only made 1 start last year, and that was in the last game of the season. So he is basically going in there cold with this. And the other thing they're really going to have to do, and this might change with Carr, this might change with Michael Thomas coming back if he's able to be out there for the majority of the season, but they got to string together some first downs as well. They were 26th in 3-and-out percentage last year, and as you know, if you don't get first downs, it's really hard to score points and certainly hard to do it consistently. And so if they don't improve on that, Mike, if they can't actually put some first downs together, then this is another team. Again, a 7-10 record wouldn't surprise me yet again, maybe even worse than the 7-10 that they were last year.
Yeah, you hope the quarterback upgrade takes care of that, right? And last year it was Andy Dalton, it was Jameis Winston. That's not going to get the job done, right? It's just that simple. I mean, Andy Dalton's not a guy who's going to consistently move the chains for you. Derek Carr looked good in Las Vegas, and he had a lot going against him in Las Vegas as well. So this is a really key year for Derek Carr's career. If he's able to come out and play good ball behind this offensive line with these weapons and with a good defense, it's the first time he's going to have a good defense on his side as well. Then you got to trust the Saints team and think they're going to win the division. The key here is going to be on the offensive side of the ball. But my big thing with the Saints team, they could be just as bad on offense this year and still win this division if everyone else projects out to kind of what I expect inside this division. I don't think any of these other 3 teams are good. We're going to get to Atlanta, who is the darling of the division. I've got so many question marks with Atlanta. I don't get why people love them right now.
The win total for the Saints sitting at 9.5. It's actually plus money if you want the over on them. We just mentioned you can get the plus 120 on them to win the division. I don't see 2 teams getting out of this division into the playoffs, and so I would just bet them to win the division as opposed to the over on the win total. In my personal opinion, just take the plus 120 for them to win the division if that's the way that you want to go with it. One last thing I do want to throw out about the Saints team, and I think this is like not out of the realm of possibility. They run these markets out there, last winless team, last unbeaten team. If you look at the Saints, and I'm actually not bullish on the Saints whatsoever, but if you look at this schedule, and it goes Tennessee, Carolina, Green Bay, Tampa, New England, Houston. Mm-hmm. It is not out of the realm of possibility if things broke right for them that they could be 6-0. Would they be the last unbeaten team left in the NFL at that point? I mean, the schedule gets exponentially harder from there, but it is pretty favorable at the beginning of the year. And so I don't hate throwing a flyer out on a team that, again, I'm not very high on, but I think in a world where you get the Titans, Panthers, Packers, Bucks, Patriots, and Texans to start the season with so many question marks surrounding each and every one of those teams, they could be 6-0 if they ran pure.
Well, let's take it another step, too. Then they get Jacksonville at home on a Thursday night. We know that building's always rocking on primetime games. Then they're at Indianapolis and versus Chicago. They could go 9-0. This is a very easy schedule early if Green Bay doesn't project to be a very good team. I mean, their toughest two games in their first 9 are Green Bay and Jacksonville.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not that tough. Let's just be honest here. And I love the look, too, to win the division versus the total. Look, they could win this division with 9 wins.
Yeah.
And you're getting plus 120 to win the division. You need 10 wins to go over the total at plus 105. To me, if you're going to bet them over the total, you're betting to win the division instead.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.